and we can each go do our own exchange. We don't have to be together. But if we formed a partnership, and the partnership's been filing the tax return under the partnership tax ID number, that's a whole different story. And this, historically, is what's happened. You know, the attorneys and the CPAs get together, and if a partnership knows that they don't want to go together into the new property, we're talking planning ahead here. They should go to their attorneys, CPAs, 2 years before they sell it and have them do their magic. Take it out of the partnership name into the individual names, each is to an undivided, however many partners there are. And each person claim their portion on their tax return under their tax ID number for a couple of years, and then sell the property and do an exchange. But the IRS said they're going to start looking at drop and swaps and swap and drops. And that's where, right when they go to sell the property, they go to the CPA and the attorney and they say, okay, we'll take it out of the partnership name, put it in your individual names as tenants in common. And they make sure that they don't even list the property until they do that. So they list it in the individual names, and then they sell it in the individual names, and all the partners go do their own thing. The issue here is the IRS audits you. They say, wait a minute, you didn't hold the property in your individual name long enough. Because remember, you can only do a 1031 exchange on property that's been held as an investment property. Most conservative CPAs say that means 2 years. There's millions out there that say 2 years means a year and a day, or the last 6 months of 1 year and the first 6 months of another, as long as it's on your tax return for 2 years. But if they look at your new tax return under your Social Security number, and they look at the old tax returns under the partnership name, you risk the 1031 being disallowed. So historically, they've done it that way, or they do the exchange, partnership buys the replacement property, and depending on how long their attorney and CPA say to wait, then they take it out of the partnership name and do their magic as far as the title goes. It's drop and swap, or swap and drop, and the IRS is going to be looking at those. So if you know anybody that owns property in a partnership name, or a corporation name, or an LLC, and some of the people involved in that entity do not want to go do an exchange, they need to deal with it. See, most CPAs would say 2 years, but some would say a year and a day would work. But they need to plan ahead, because it could be detrimental to their exchange. So, investment for investment property, and people do exchanges to trade up, to increase their cash flow, plan for retirement, consolidate, relocate. And you think about the amount of money that is deferred in their capital gains tax is huge, and that gives them that much more cash to go buy other property. And the primary residence exclusion, as you know, went into effect when 97. Prior to that, there was the rollover provision. And tell me, do you think that there are many people out there that are living in their homes, their primary residence, that still think there's a rollover provision? Do you agree? Yes. They still think that if they sell the home they live in, all they have to do to defer their capital gains tax is buy another home to live in within 2 years, right? Well, that went away in 97. So that's something else, and I'm going to be giving you a flyer that you can send that information out again to your client. We had a client that sold, he and his wife sold a commercial building in the Midwest, bought a rental house in Florida. They could not have done that prior to the like-for-like interpretation changing, because back then you sold a commercial building, you had to buy a commercial building, and they couldn't have done it prior to 97 when the primary residence exclusion went away. And like I said, you would be amazed, because, and I'm not putting them down, it's just that CPAs and tax preparers don't all specialize in 1031 exchange or the rules. So they're still out there telling people that they can't sell a vacant lot and buy a rental house, because I hear that a lot. So it's a wonderful opportunity for people, but I have to tell you this little story, because this client and his wife, the client called me, said, my agent told me to call you and you'd explain the time frames to me again. Now, how many days does he have from the close of a sale to identify what he's going to buy?
45.
You got it. 45. And how many days to close?
100.
180. And the 45 is included in the 180. It's not 45 plus 180. So I'm talking to him, and by the way, I take calls from your clients, agents. I figure you go out and do what you do best and list and sell real estate. If there's a 1031 question, throw it my way. So I told Brian, I said, you have 45 days from the close of your sale to identify what you're going to buy, and 180 days from the close of your sale to close your purchase. And we talked about ideas, and I said, Brian, when is your sale closing? He said, in 2 weeks. I said, Brian, you should already be in a contract to buy something. He says, well, my wife and I are going to fly to Florida in about a week. I said, Brian, get your wife on an airplane and take her to Florida this weekend and buy something. And you know, they're the people that are doing 1031 exchanges are the perfect buyers. They buy property they don't even want to save $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 in capital gains tax. So we laughed and we hung up. That next Saturday, my cell phone rings. He says, this is Brian. We're in Florida, and we can't thank you enough for pushing us to find our replacement property. This is verbatim what he said, and it's a good thing the IRS wasn't listening. He said, my wife and I found our dream home. We're going to rent it out for 3 to 5 years, and then we're going to retire here. Now, in that event, you know, if he did plan on moving into it and selling it and taking his tax-free money, if somebody retires there, it's a non-issue. Doesn't matter. Somebody moves into a non-qualified property and lives there the rest of their life. Doesn't matter. So, I get, oh, congratulations. Brian hangs up. 10 minutes later, he calls me back. He says, Barbara, I'm sitting here with the lender, and the lender says that if I apply for a second home loan, I get a quarter point off my interest rate. I said, Brian, you want to ensure that the IRS will disallow your 1031 exchange. He said, okay. I said, it is what it is. You sell investment property and you buy investment property. So the IRS, when they audit, look at everything. They look at what box was marked on the contract, what kind of a loan did they apply for, etc. So now that's an example of somebody that is not going to have a problem when that 45th day rolls around. You have to identify what you're going to buy. And by the way, we send the client the forms when we get their money. We say, we received your proceeds from your sale, and here are the rules and the forms to identify your replacement property. For Brian, when that day rolls around, he fills in the address and sends it in. Not a problem. But if you get down to the 45th day, and you haven't figured it out yet, but you're taking some buyer around showing them properties, and you show them 3 properties they like, they fill in those 3 addresses on the ID form. If they don't go back, enter a contract, and close on one of those 3 properties they identify, they don't have an exchange. So I don't want you to spend any of your brain power thinking about the ID rules, because it should never be an issue if everybody's doing what they should be doing. And if it is, you can call us and we'll go over it with you. But don't waste your brain power on that. So, you take the primary residence exclusion. Brian took full advantage, sold a commercial building, bought a rental house. Totally sheltered the gain from his commercial building and ended up retiring in this rental house that he did a 1031 exchange into. Because remember, we hear tax-free all the time. I think even on the code books, the IRS code book, it says tax-free. It's not tax-free, it's tax-deferred. So if you ever sell, you pay. So nobody wants to do that. So he took full advantage of that. Now, we talked about this, relinquished property, replacement property.